What's up, chat? Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday. Hopefully you guys are doing all right. Hope you had a solid last night. I'm Gun. Twitter.com/Gundacker. Joined by Luke. You might have seen Luke's first look video on this channel this morning. If you haven't, check it out. Hit the thumbs up. Engage with it. You know how we do. What's up, Luke? You watching some golf?
Yeah, what's going on? We got some golf going on right now. Basketball tonight, some football this weekend. But yeah, it's an early start for golf. So my whole circadian rhythm of sorts is a little bit off kilter this week.
Big words.
Because, you know, we were up from essentially Monday morning through like Tuesday midday, just like literally constantly pumping out content. Yeah, I didn't sleep till like Tuesday midday.
Yeah, you're a machine, bro, but it'll be worth it. Yeah, I've definitely been on the content grind a little bit more lately. This recent influx of interest in the channel, I'm like, well, I better take advantage of it. So added new shows, added a couple preview pieces. When you're not doing one, I'm trying to do one. We're getting it together. Chat, if you're not subbed to Luke's channel, you should definitely be subbed to Luke's channel. Like I said, did a video for us this morning. I think you're set to do it on Friday morning as well.
Yeah, Friday and I think Saturday too.
Saturday we might. I don't know. I gotta see what the Awesome schedule is, but I might be game for another live stream. I always have to roll out of bed early, way earlier than usual on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then next Monday, I think I have to get out of bed early again to do a live stream for a collab with the coach. So we are definitely doing it big. What up, Skimmer? What up, Logan? Justin Brooks says, what's good, fam? Hit good on PRIZEPICKS last night. Talk about the sweats. Let's do it again. It's fun, isn't it? What up, Rich Homie Quinn? Thomas missed casting last night on Porzingis boards. Thomas and everybody else. Let's talk about that for just a moment. Luke, I don't know if you saw this. So at the end of the third quarter yesterday, there was like a weird play where there was a tip in, but Kristaps Porzingis had involvement in the play, and at first they credited Porzingis his 8th rebound, right? And then it's the end of the third quarter, and they take the rebound back and give it to like Green or somebody as a putback. All right, no big deal. We have a full fourth quarter to get one rebound from Kristaps Porzingis. Well, some weird play, and he like kicks the ball, but it wasn't like complete anger. It just like in the moment, passive frustration, kicks the ball, and when you do that, you get ejected. He got ejected, hooking us. So
I did see that. That was pretty unfortunate.
That's the double zeros. But looking back at Josh's card yesterday, we tailed a lot of this. Porzingis I'm going to go ahead and stamp it as a bad beat. Injuries and ejections, it is what it is. I mean, it was a lopsided game, but I have faith that one rebound was on the way. The Rockets got smacked, so Wood wasn't able to hit his prop, and then that messed up DeJounte's fantasy prop, which he only missed by like a bucket, but he did hit his I want to say hit his PRA, but look at all this green from yesterday. So hopefully we can continue the hot streak and keep it going today and avoid the the bad beats, man. What are you gonna do? The double zeros, right? I called it double zeros. You ever play roulette, Luke?
Yeah, exactly. When you're betting red or black or evens odds and you get the zero. Yeah,
that's what it is, man. What are you gonna do? But there's a ton of games tonight, 10 games. So hopefully we got ourselves a pretty nice board to choose from on this stream. And really at my first attack at PRIZEPICKS boards, I like to focus on spots where we can get away from what seasonal projections would be. Like if everything is the same, teams are full strength, I feel like the lines are going to be pretty steady Eddie. But when guys are rolled out, usage rates influx, and even in, some games are high totals, high paces. Those are spots I like to be at, or at least I like to start with. So I feel like that's a good place for us to start. And I think I'm going to run it back and then go start with the Brooklyn Nets. Nets, night 2 of a back-to-back without Kyrie Irving again, without Kevin Durant still, and we learned earlier that Nick Claxton's going to be out. We still get all of the usage in the world on James Harden, ironically going against Nikola Jokic. So we might have, for DFS purposes, we might have like a dueling 60-70 fantasy point shootout here between the two. But last night, Harden was a monster for fantasy. He wasn't really a monster for real life defense. I don't know if you saw those back-to-back breakaway dunks by LeBron James, but there's a scene, like a camera angle on Twitter where Harden's just like standing there bored watching it twice in a row. I'm just like, come on, bro. But Harden props. He's at 48.5 PRA, 11 assists, 8 rebounds, 27.5 real points, and 52.5 fantasy points. I've got him for 62 PrizePicks fantasy points. Kind of like I had him pretty bullish yesterday when he's in this split where he has all the usage in the world without Kyrie, without Harden, or without KD. Plenty of air and opportunity for him to smash this number. He's exceeded it 2 times in his last 3 games, and of course yesterday more notable because the environment was the same today. If we go pull off that on-off court tool via NBA Wowie, and just for this season alone, give us James Harden on, Kyrie off, and also Kevin Durant off. The official numbers from a usage standpoint give us a big number of 20 or 34% with a 44.7% assist rate. So a lot to like on James Harden. And then yesterday we were all on Patty Mills over 13.5 points, and then it moved to 12 to 14 points and 14.5. Well, he's back at 14.5 today. I expected him to be second on the team yesterday in shot attempts and or points. I thought only LaMarcus Aldridge would compete with him, and that's really what happened. Harden did everything else, and others picked up the scraps. We saw 14 shot attempts from Patty Mills, and as Patty Mills is accustomed to, half, if not more, of his shots per game are going to be from behind the arc. If we look at this split with Patty Mills' shot attempts on the Durant, Kyrie off, Harden on, Patty Mills is shooting 50% of his shots from behind the arc. So I think there's going to be plenty of shot volume there. I do think 14.5 is going to make you sweat a little bit. He barely got there yesterday, but I don't mind looking his way as well for a little bit of action. And usually, like I said yesterday, Patty Mills doesn't do much but score. So I don't get too attached to the PRAs and the fantasy scores, because real points is really going to be how Patty Mills gets his fantasy points and PRA. Do you have any strong leans on Nets and Nuggets while we're here? Harden, do you want to?
Yeah, it's pretty much all James Harden for me. I think the one I like the most would be the fantasy score, 52.5. Points on PrizePicks. I have them projected closer to 58, so I think there's quite a bit of wiggle room there as well, which is why I like it a little bit more. I would also, you could convince me to take the over on assists or points as well. 11 assists, 27.5 points. I think they're all fair numbers, but I think the safest, especially because we consider that he's going to be giving us points, he's going to be giving us those assists and rebounds. I think the fantasy score is probably your safest bet.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with that. On the Nuggets side, Will Barton didn't play yesterday. I wasn't fully expecting that. Matter of fact, he was literally listed as probable earlier in the day. So I don't know if there was like a late development on that, or maybe it was a back-to-back and they strategically nixed him on night 1. But he's listed as questionable with a hamstring. If he can't go from a fantasy point per minute standpoint, we've seen that benefit Monte Morris. And then JaMychal Green has also been hit or miss, and we've seen that benefit minutes for Aaron Gordon and Jeff Green. I don't want to get to all these ancillary plays, but something to keep an eye on for Will Barton. And if Will Barton can or can't go, no matter what, Jokic is in play. And Jokic on the board today has 25.5 point prop, 13 rebounds, 47.5 PRA, 8.5 assists, and 58.5 fantasy points. So while that is high, much like the Harden number, where his 50-plus fantasy point projection feels strong, I haven't projected. I had Harden projected for 62. I have Jokic projected for 63. So Jokic is Jokic. He's a beast. And we ran this number yesterday. If you just take Kevin Durant off the court, Brooklyn Nets have the worst defense in the league. And I was actually speculating that the Lakers could blow them out. And there were times in that game where they had strong double-digit point leads, but they're still the Lakers. Brooklyn Nets defensive rating without Kevin Durant this season, I think it was like 117. 117 points per 100 possessions essentially this season without KD. And if you look at the team metric chart in the RunDFS.com NBA VIP spreadsheet, that would be good for the worst defense in the league. So a guy like Jokic, who is going to absolve 30+% usage, 40% usage, and do a little bit of everything. Considering the matchup being what it is, there's meat on the bone for all of these props. And then we mentioned Nick Claxton is out. So their front court is probably going to be Sharp again. Sharp did start yesterday. And then LaMarcus Aldridge down the stretch. Jokic is coming off a 21 rebound game. So there's not really a specific stat I wouldn't be on for Jokic, but might as well throw them all together and get a fantasy point attachment. So Jokic and Harden fantasy points. Let me get caught up on chat before we move on to the next one. What up, Hey Toronto? What up, Jason Trotter? Dominic Davis says, Salty, I made a flex play and tried to submit, but literally 1 second left. Didn't go through. Would have won 200. Dude, that sucks, Dom, where you try to attack some late news. And you're like, all right, still on the board. Go. And then, bam, they pull it off. Or that's the worst. Or if you're getting onto some, like, second half props, those lines adjust so rapidly. I've caught myself having to click enter like 3 times just to get a second half ticket in, especially for NFL. Your Mills call sneaking in on the over. He barely got that. Second half was glorious. Tony, do you like fantasy score PRA more as a safety prop? I got burned a few times with the FS due to turnover. So Tony, my rule of thumb is if the player is a so for instance DeJounte Murray, we highlighted him yesterday against the Rockets. If the player is a good defender and he's known for defensive peripherals, blocks, and steals, I'll take the fantasy points if it's within or if it's less than 10 of the PRA. DeJounte, I know DeJounte's on the slate. Let me control F. DeJounte, control F. There he is. DeJounte Murray is averaging 2 steals per game and half a block. So implied, if he hits his season average, of course it's all matchup dependent. That's 2.5 stocks. So 2.5 times 3, you're getting 6, 7, 8 implied extra points as leeway. And he's not somebody I expect to turn the ball over a bunch. So turnovers being -1 is a pain in the butt. But if they are a big blocks and steals guy, I'll take the fantasy points. But if they're not, if they're scoring dependent like Patty Mills, I'll just try and take what I think the lightest number is. So that's how I approach it. Luke, is that kind of the same for you?
Yeah, it's kind of like a player by player dependent basis, like you said. Somebody that's a little bit more reliant on the defensive stats, I would actually side towards the fantasy scoring, like you're saying. Mm-hmm. One thing I will add for this first game is I do like targeting some of these Denver players for the rebound props. Just because of how weak that front court is expected to be. Yeah. So something like a 13 for Jokic or even a 5 rebounds for an Aaron Gordon, I'm not opposed to.
Yeah, Gordon's actually averaging 5.5 rebounds per game on the season. So you put him against a more porous than average team, Nets, and of course we talked about their inequities. I can co-sign that quite a bit. Also on the list, past the Nets usage situation, what's another big usage bump? Well, how about the Indiana Pacers? This is like the perfect storm for me. Karis LeVert, without Domantas Sabonis, without Malcolm Brogdon, without Miles Turner, without TJ Warren, without TJ McConnell, is in a massive spot hosting the Charlotte Hornets. Hornets night 2 of a back-to-back. If you've seen more than 5 minutes of a show that I've ever done, you know I love picking on the Charlotte Hornets because they run such a fast pace, parlaying a top 2, top 3 pace in basketball with a bottom 5 defensive efficiency, which is creating a lot more implied possessions and a lot more viability and value. Yesterday, the Toronto Raptors limped in without 2 starters, Van Vliet, ironically, who I highlighted on the morning show. And then also Scotty Barnes, and we saw Siakam just absolutely thrive. There really wasn't a Raptors name you couldn't click. I guess Boucher at the end of the day wasn't what you wanted, but it was just such a fruitful opportunity for a guy like Siakam because we knew he was going to play deep minutes and we knew his usage was going to lead the team. Now, LeVert's not a one-to-one comparison here because it's a different archetype of a player, but the concept is the same. Karis LeVert is in a spot where he's going to have higher implied usage than he's had all year, based on almost all the starters being out around him. And in this split this season, 43 minutes of sample size, his usage rate has exceeded 30%. His assist rate's knocking on the door of 30%. And for PrizePicks consideration, his per minute production is over a fantasy point per minute. And if we elongate on that a little bit to go to last year, mostly the same team are the Pacers. Of course, Chris Duarte, guys like that. But just to give us a little bit more sample size to drive this point home, if we add more minutes from last year, LeVert's use is still knocking on the door of 30%, still assist rate knocking on the door of 30%, fantasy point per minute well over 1. So long story short here is Karis LeVert should benefit in the absence of his cohorts, and he should also benefit just because it's the Charlotte Hornets. I early on having projected for 41 PrizePicks points. If we look at the board for the Pacers, we can get action on LeVert's real points, rebounds, PRA, assists, and fantasy score. And his fantasy score is only 2 above his PRA. So this is an incredible segue from the topic of conversation that we just had. So I guess first of all, to act on what we just talked about, is LeVert a high blocks or steal guy? A steal here and there, but no, not generally. His seasonal averages for those defensive metric, half a block, 1 steal a game. So I guess 1.5, and that would be worth 4.5 to 5 implied points, probably a baseline of 3, maybe a little bit more since we're baking in extra possessions. So maybe I would take the fantasy score here just because it's so close to the PRA, and we just hope we don't turn the ball over 100 times. So LeVert has a couple of numbers I'm willing to attack. I don't have a big gap between my fantasy projection and his, but I think that the Charlotte Hornets are just the gift that keeps on giving. So I'll be interested in some Karis LeVert props here, and then also through and through on this Nuggets team, Goga Bitadze has stepped up and benefited in the front court. I think his minutes are a little bit erratic and volatile, that I'd rather just get action on some lines on him on like a 1-to-1 prop betting. I wouldn't want to assume extra risk just to hit on a multi-ticketed card. But do you have any interest in LeVert props today? And do you have any calls in this game, Pacers? And then if you got something on the Hornets, talk to me.
I was on the fantasy score at 37.5 on the over. I also like going to potentially the free throws made. He's at 3 right now. He's going to be the clear number 1 usage guy on that team. And this Charlotte's Hornets team is not the most polished defensively, so I could see them living up quite a few free throws. On the other side of things, I also like targeting the Charlotte team. I think something that gets a little bit overlooked at times is that when we have a lot of guys missing, the other team's also going to play well as well, not just that usage gap that's there. So guys like LaMelo Ball, I like the over 37.5 fantasy points. I like the over on the free throws made for Ball as well. Also dealing with, what's the word for it? Replacement level players like Goga Bitadze that are more likely to foul than somebody like a Domantas Sabonis. And then, of course, Terry Rozier at 5 assists. I could see myself taking that as well. I think they're all fair numbers for a neutral matchup. But considering that we have multiple backups in, I think we should be giving both these teams a bump.
Yeah, Rozier has been clearing this his assist prop. If you're in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord, we have been on this since it was 3.5 every game, 3.5, and we've watched it slowly climb to 4, 4.5. Now it's at 5, and it's still a number that he's been able to beat. I do want to add on that Gordon Hayward has missed the last 2 games. He missed yesterday as well. He's dealing with a foot injury. We know he has a pretty decent recent history of injuries, so I would imagine they keep it. They be cautious with him. But it does have some ties to Indiana, so I
Yeah.
don't I don't know what his status is going to be today. But if he's out, it's just that much more potential usage minutes and stuff to go around for Rozier. 5 assists. I like that number quite a bit. Even if we push it, I'll take it. But yeah, I like that LaMelo call. I actually have LaMelo going for a nutty amount of fantasy points, and there's a big gap between my early projection and theirs. Obviously, he's kind of calmed down a little bit game to game from what we thought he could be to start the season, but it's because the Hornets have been so fluctual when it comes to who pops each game. We've seen Miles Bridges take over. We've seen Kelly Oubre take over the scoring. Rozier has big games. Hayward big games. LaMelo big games. But nonetheless, I still think LaMelo does just enough of everything. And 37.5 is a line that I can tack, and I don't hate that free throw line as well. But yes, the 5 assists for Terry Rozier, I'll definitely jot that down. Yesterday, was it PJ Washington got ejected? Let me double check to make sure there wasn't.
I had quite a bit.
Oof.
Yeah.
Know what you want. PJ Washington got ejected early in the first quarter. I don't know that. I guess Cody Martin was the immediate beneficiary, and they've been without McDaniels. I want to say.
I had Martin projected to play quite a bit regardless, but he saw just like a lot of extra run too.
All right. So McDaniels and Hayward end up being out again. Yeah, Cody Martin might get a decent run. All right, I don't want to put PrizePicks action on Cody Martin, but just thinking out loud so I didn't think someone was I don't know, like Tim Hardaway fractured had a fractured bone last night, so something to think about for tonight, but I don't think I'm going to get any Frank Ntilikina action either. Scott Durant says McCollum killed me last night. Couldn't buy a bucket. Yeah, that sucks. Do you like Siakam props tonight? Well, I think we'll talk about that next, Scott. I think a lot of the Raptors' interest will once again be contingent on. Hey, yo, Dylan, appreciate that sub. Will be contingent on the status of Van Vliet and Scotty Barnes again. But Siakam, no matter what, Siakam has like 40-minute potential, so it only becomes that much better. If those guys are out. Chris says Murray and Jokic covered assists, won me big money, but only covered half assists. Yeah. Would you take over on Terry Rozier assists? Yes, Thomas. I know I'm reading these questions like after we've already talked about it, but yeah, I like that. So if you guys are on Rozier assists, we're all on the same page. LeVert's turnovers are high. Yeah. So I mean, if you're scared of the turnovers, maybe just take his PRA. I don't mind that. What are your thoughts on first half points and fantasy scores? Typically when I'm trying to juice content out, there's not a ton of first half options, but I think the benefit of first half stuff would be maybe teams that we know come out of the gates pretty hot, or teams that we suspect might be part of a blowout one way or the other, and we know we get a pretty neutral opportunity at minutes in the first half. So maybe that's where we would attack some of the first half stuff. So like, I don't know, the Kings are pretty sizable dogs today after getting just rolled last night. They're 9.5 dogs to the Hawks. So if you're on Trae Young props, Mr. 30-10, or if you're on maybe Tyrese Halliburton having some stuff and you're worried about the second half being out of control and then we don't get the full allotment of minutes, maybe you chop that in half here and you look for some first half action on Trae Young. Trae Young has a 23 fantasy score for the first half of 14.5 real points. I mean, that's slicing his recent average right down the middle. So maybe that's where I would get some action. Do you dabble with first half much, Luke? I feel like for me, it's mostly rage tilting second half to get my money back, and not so much the first half.
Yeah, I don't really look at that first half stuff all too much. It's not really part of my process. I try to look at the stuff that's a little bit higher sample size, because there's those times where a guy goes 0 for 7 in the first half, but by the end of the game, he turns it around. So I like to give myself a little bit more time, in case my guy starts off horribly.
Yeah, and there's some players that have a minute rotation that call for a little extra out of them in the second half than the first half, like LaMarcus Aldridge. He's been closing for them while not starting pretty consistently, so his second half stuff might just be stronger, or second half traction might be stronger. So if you took his full game fantasy projection, you cut it in half, his first half probably wouldn't be where it needs to be if that's the process. But I guess long story short, I would only look at first half if I'm really scared of a massive blowout taking away some minute equity from me. What else do I got on the list here? So we mentioned Karis LeVert. Let's talk about Trae Young. Trae Young is hosting the Sacramento Kings. Terrence Davis, I think, got ruled out right before I went on. And that's not insignificant, especially if De'Aaron Fox can't go. Fox has missed a couple of games now. In his absence, statistically, Tyrese Halliburton benefits usage-wise and assists-wise. And then Terrence Davis has recently been a guy that soaks up, 30 minutes and is a pretty active body out there. So if they can't go, we might open an opportunity for like Davion Mitchell, Buddy Hield get extra minutes. I think he started second half yesterday. Fox has been dealing with left ankle soreness, so keep an eye on that. But yeah, Terrence Davis listed as out, I believe, before I went live. So keep an eye on that.
Have any props for them yet?
They might have taken it off the board when that news came out. Kings have no props on the board right now.
That'd be all over Halliburton. That would be massive.
Yeah. On the Hawks side, though, Trae Young's kind of the main guy for me. I know Bogdan Bogdanovic might be back. I think I read that if he plays, he'd be limited anyway. So Trae Young catching a team like the Kings. The Kings represent, I believe, the worst defensive rating in all of basketball, the second worst behind just the Rockets. So yeah, it's a big, massive spot for Trae Young to benefit. Plenty of high lines, right? A little bit uncomfortable. 9.5 assists is lower than what he's achieved his last 2 games, but on the season we know 9 to 10 plus. Those 30 real point 10 assist games have been so frequent for him. But maybe the fantasy score line has a little bit of juice. I got him at 53, almost 54 fantasy points. They got him at 46, so I do get about a 6-point margin. So I don't mind looking at that. But there's really not like a Trae Young line I would push back on too much. Typically, I don't like to sweat 30-ish real points, no matter who it is. So maybe I stay away from that. What we know is his volume will be there. Anything on the Hawks side sticking out to you, Trae Young included?
Trae Young would be the number 1, probably, and number 2 option for me. Whether you're attacking his PRA, points, assists, pretty much everything there. Outside of that, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. So it's not anything I'd be trying to force into my cards, particularly when we got 10 games.
Yeah, and then my favorite stat about the Sacramento Kings is they allow the most points in the paint per game. Clint Capella, he doesn't chuck a lot of threes, but he does do a lot of dunks. So Clint Capella, last couple games, 26 minutes. I don't know what we got on Capella. We got him 11.5 real points, 1.5 blocks and steals is a fun number for a guy like Capella and Collins. I guess it's only Collins at this clip. So I don't think I want to get on that. But Capella's at 33 fantasy score, and John Collins is at 32. So maybe that's the John Collins train rolling in. I've got Collins at 34, Capella at 36. Not enough meat on the bone there for me to really like that. So I'll probably stay away from that. And then we mentioned Siakam's situation. Let's go pull up the Raptors here. Using that RunDFS.com NBA VIP spreadsheet. Van Vliet and Scotty Barnes, I have them tentatively penciled in. But yesterday, Van Vliet was midday questionable, then rolled out. And then after Van Vliet was rolled out, Barnes got downgraded to questionable, and he did not play. So being a back-to-back with some travel, there's a lot more uncertainty circling these two. Van Vliet's been dealing with knee soreness that might happen when you play 41 minutes a game, and Scotty Barnes is dealing with right wrist swelling. If these guys can't go, or if only one can go, it obviously boosts the potential usage minutes for guys like Siakam, Anunoby, Gary Trent. We saw Gary Trent technically start at the 1 yesterday, Anunoby at the shooting guard, Siakam to the 4. I think we started, was it Precious Achua and Boucher? Or it was a weird lineup. If we get another lineup like that, I know this game projects to be a little bit slower paced than the Hornets game, but it's still a 219 total. And like I said, the Raptors are out here playing 40 minutes apiece, and it's just nuts. So maybe you want to take a leap of faith and get some Raptors action, particularly Siakam. Oh, you can't. They're not on the board. Oh, well, that's
They
unfortunate.
pull them.
Yeah, I
Yeah, they were up
guess.
there before.
Did we just get news on the Raptors? Usually it happens when news comes out. Let me double check in the Discord. Davis probable. No, we didn't. No news just dropped. So
Maybe they're adjusting it or something.
yeah. Well then, well, there's no point in talking about it now. But yeah, hopefully at least there's some news soon. But I have Siakam at 50 FanDuel points straight up. The Chicago Bulls have been pretty weak in the front court. They have a couple Qs in their own lineup. Vucevic, namely, now Vucevic played through this Q tag against Oklahoma, so I'm guessing that we'd have to consider him closer to in than out. DeRozan, little revenge narrative for him. He rested the last game against OKC, Zach LaVine's first game back. So enough inner cannibalism within the team that I don't likely lean on many of these guys from a parlay point of view. But that sucks. I was ready to chop up some Raptors. Were there any other key spots on today's slate? I think you were pretty interested in Jimmy Butler. You want to talk about Butler?
Yeah, Butler would be number one. I liked his PRA. Let's see, it was 33.5, I believe. Let me see if it's still on the board here. I can't find it on here anymore.
I got 33.5.
33.5. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that a whole lot. Even with Tyler Hero back, you're dealing with Lowry out of the lineup, so he's dealing with right around a 30% assist percentage. He's going to get us 6 or 7 rebounds on average per game. And if he puts up 20 points, that's enough right there. I mean, if he has even a slightly above average day in any of those categories, I have him projected well above that. Right around a 9% edge. I also really liked the Chris Middleton PRA as well. I know I mentioned earlier talking about his real points prop, but the PRA is at 30.5. And I think that this matchup against the Cavs with the huge lineup that they run, with those two really solid guys in the front court, that Giannis isn't really going to be able to eat today. So I expect Drew and, of course, Middleton to probably get a lot of that usage. And the last one I had my eye on was Chris Paul over 10 assists. The guy has just been a machine of late assisting the ball. And against a really weak team in Utah with all those injuries, or at least hoping that they're both going to be out tonight, Gobert and Mitchell, that would be huge.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point before we get out of here. Suns. Let's talk about the Suns in general. The Suns are coming in with a shorter staff as well, and they won't have DeAndre Ayton or JaVale McGee. And in recent history, Bismack Biyombo has been playing a lot of minutes and has been the better play between him and JaVale McGee. So going against the Utah Jazz, who project to be without Rudy Gobert, their best interior defender, replacing him with a guy like Hassan Whiteside. Whiteside, a good rim protector, but not good past that in terms of defense. So definitely an upgraded matchup. Maybe Bismack Biyombo comes through and projects well. I got him for 40 plus fantasy points right now. Now I get it, that's bullish. My algorithm might be broken, but on PrizePicks they have him for 24.5 PRA, 10.5 rebounds, 11.5 points. I'm daring them to put a fantasy prop up. But so I don't mind
25, 26. I mean, that would just be a smash spot right there.
Yeah, the thing with Biyombo though is he is a big block guy, so I want to take advantage of the potential fantasy boost. So hopefully they put down a fantasy projection line. But yeah, if it's around 30, I'm fine with taking the over. And then we should also note that I got Jay Crowder out. I've got Cameron Payne out. Already joining guys that have been out, the Kaminsky's, the Saric's, Abdul Nader, guys like that. And since Cameron Payne has been down, I know we like to baby Chris Paul's minutes, but Chris Paul has played extended minutes in back-to-back games. Seems like they're less enthusiastic to get Elfrid Payton involved and just say, okay, Chris Paul, you get more minutes. 40 and 41 minutes, 37 minutes his last 3 games. I mean, it's rare that we get this type of a minute tree out of Chris Paul in the regular season at this stage in his career. So definitely like the minutes that he's playing to double down on your interest in his props. Let me pull up Phoenix here. Minute rotation last couple games against Utah. Elfrid Payton played 11 minutes against Utah, and then against the Suns, Elfrid Payton played just 6 minutes after Cameron Payne got hurt after 6 minutes. So it's not like Elfrid Payton has been given all of the Cameron Payne run. Cameron Payne was good for 18, 24 minutes a game. So I do like that Chris Paul call quite a bit. And then Devin Booker has sustained a 30+% usage rate with Chris Paul without DeAndre Ayton. So he might have some numbers that are worth taking a look at. His current point prop is at 27.5. PRA is 37.5, and the fantasy score 41.5. Decent opportunities to look his way. Maybe the 2.5 3-pointer prop is something to take advantage of. The Utah Jazz, I guess when they're full strength, they can take among the most threes per game. Maybe Donovan Mitchell's absence will kind of lower our expectation here. But for a team that could lead the league in threes per game, other teams tend to fire back here. So I don't mind looking at Devin Booker to maybe chuck some threes. But I think I'll take the fantasy point props on Paul, Booker, Biyombo. Hopefully we get some good lines. On the Jazz side, Gobert Mitchell listed as out. Bojan Bogdanovic had a busted finger, I think it was, but it looks like he's going to play through it. So if that's the case, maybe we expect a little less efficient shooting from him, and maybe a guy like Jordan Clarkson and Mike Conley pick up the slack. What is on the table for the Utah Jazz today? Jazz. Conley 15.5 real points, 3.5 rebounds, 24.5 PRA. That's an interesting number. He's cleared that in 2 of his last 4. Did not play that last Suns game. And one of the things about this, that game was a pure point game anyway. One of the things about the Suns that gets kind of unsung here is that they run at such a decent clip that even with a solid defense, you can compensate for some bad matchup trade-off by getting extra implied possessions, and Conley without Mitchell with the situation at hand could definitely benefit in that category. Maybe put up a couple extra real points. Anything on the board for you on this game other than Chris Paul that you might get some late night action on?
Yeah, so the rebounds for Biyombo over 10.5, that would make a lot of sense. I know you mentioned that. And on the Utah side, I have the over 31 fantasy points on Conley, the over 31 on Bogdanovic. That's assuming that he's 100% good to go for tonight. So I would wait to put in this card, obviously, until we hear that. And then Hassan Whiteside at 11.5 rebounds. You could convince me to take the over on that as well. We know that Biyombo is going to be in there for the Suns, but Jalen Smith not necessarily going to be out rebounding Whiteside. So whenever they're staggered in their minutes, I think he dominates. So overall, yeah, I like those 4 props the most.
All right, let's get caught up on chat before we do chat. If you guys want access to the spreadsheet, access to our my player pools for DFS, my projections, we have the prop detector in the player prop projection tab. This tab will show you my minute projections, PrizePicks fantasy points, real points, rebounds, assists, PRA, 3-pointers, anything that basically has an isolated line that you can bet over under on PrizePicks. I can put it here. Matter of fact, I can code in blocks and steals as well. It is a premium perk at rundfs.com. Get yourself signed up. Check out VIP memberships. We're grinding every sport. Well, most sports. NBA right now is in full season. We have another weekend of NFL, and I have spreadsheets for that as well with projections. And then, of course, if you are just a prop player and you haven't tried DFS, maybe you want to give it a shot. We have a lot of DFS content as well. And every day before lock, I'm hanging out in the premium Discord right here. It looks something like this in the voice chat area. It's not a radio show. You don't just listen in. You can grab a mic, be part of the conversation, and have a lot of fun. And then we added Luke, and Luke's been not only giving you guys a ton of free content, but he's been pretty accessible in the Discord. Whenever someone has a question or a hot take, you're tagging him, and Luke is right there grinding. So come be part of the community. We'd love to have you. And then don't forget to sub to Luke's channel. Luke, we kind of added you late to the show today, so I didn't have your stuff set up in the description. But you guys have been seeing him type in chat. If you click on his name in chat, go to his channel and yeah. And I don't know if you got a link, get in there. Anyway, let's get caught up on chat before we get out of here. Reminder, I will be live again immediately following this show, revisiting every game, going a little bit more in depth from a DFS FanDuel DraftKings point of view. And I still try to keep PrizePicks stuff in mind. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid to jump in there and ask questions for PrizePicks as well. Alex McCormick says, can you do a summary of your favorite picks before you go? I think I'm gonna be a sucker for some Levert action. I'll probably take his. I'm thinking PRA right now. What would you say is your top 2 or 3 favorite picks right now that you're kind of anchored in?
Number 1, I really like that Chris Middleton prop. I'm really trying to hunker down on that Milwaukee versus Cleveland game. I also really like some of the props for Karis LeVert. I know you mentioned them a little bit before. A sneaky pick for me is that LaMelo Ball over 37.5 fantasy points. I think that's pretty far off. I haven't projected 46 on DK, 48 on FanDuel. I have like a huge difference in my projections from where they have it.
Dexter says I got Garland over assists. Garland's been crushing assists too. So Dexter, I don't know what the line is, but if it's 9.5 or lower, I literally just typed Dexter. Jesus, Dexter. It's 8.
Oh, 8. It's even lower. Wow.
Bruh. I know Rondo's back, but 8's too low. Milwaukee Bucks. So this is one of those matchups where you take a faster paced team against a slow paced team, extra implied possessions, and without Ricky Rubio, without Colin Sexton, this is Darius Garland's team, and they're also without Lauri Markkanen. So he's just getting it done. And if Jared Allen, I have him right now, I'm penciling him in as playing, but if he can't go, obviously it's stronger for Garland's real scoring. And then Kevin Love has been a really efficient option for him to lean on. So 8 is pretty ridiculous. Dexter, that's a huge call, brother. I'm going to add that to the mix. That's disrespectful. Right? That's just, am I tripping? 8? What is 8 about, man? He's averaging 8 on the season. So you give him more implied possession. Yeah, okay. What up, Shadow Stefan? What do you guys think of Portis rebounds? Man, Portis is, if they're full strength against the Cavs, first of all, if the Bucks are full strength, I'm a little bit trepid. But the Cavs, if Mobley and Jared Allen are ready to, full strength and going here, those are 2 elite defenders. This Cavs front court is a problem. I'm very interested in seeing some real life basketball of Mobley guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo to see how that goes. But Bobby Portis is listed at 31 fantasy. I don't have a rebound number, so what was it at, Stefan? Is it like 6.5, 7.5? If so, it's still a little bit. I don't think I want any action on picking on Jared Allen and Mobley for rebounds. I don't know if I can trust Goga rebound. I'd rather take Goga's fantasy points. And then did Goga get benched at half last game? I feel like
he was in foul trouble. He got in 4 fouls early in the third, so it was like severe foul trouble.
Okay, so. Yeah, if he stays out of foul trouble, then we probably don't expect that. So 21 minutes probably goes back closer to 20, 30. Yeah. Stop hitting people, Goga. PJ Tucker locked for the under on
and some of those free throw props for Charlotte is because Goga hacks people. So, and so does Brissett. So if they put Brissett in there, he's also going to be hacking people.
Chat, twitter.com/Gundacker. Hit me up. I got to be back in like 10 minutes, so we're going to have to cut it. Tomorrow, I'll do the first look video tomorrow. Wait, no, tomorrow's Thursday, right? Tomorrow's a 2-game slate. I haven't truly decided if I even want to do content for this slate tomorrow because it's only 2 games, and that's pretty yuck, and I feel like, a pick your battle spot, that I feel like it would be forcing stuff. But
lower EV for sure. Lower EV.
Absolutely. But maybe tomorrow, I don't want to. Maybe it'll be a good opportunity to record some other content for the weekend. So yeah, maybe not content tomorrow. I'm thinking if I had to call it right now, I would list any content tomorrow as questionable and did not go through shoot around. But there's still plenty of content, plenty of games today. Join me again in 10 minutes. Myself and Raj chopping up the slate again from a DFS standpoint. Make sure you're subbed to Luke, because Luke will have content, right? There's more golf for the next couple days. You've been hitting showdown stuff.
Football this weekend. Got a big weekend ahead.
Let's go Rams. Dad, I appreciate your time. I'll be back in a few minutes. But yeah, check out Luke's video from this morning, and then if you got anything else for us, Luke's on Twitter too, right? @GSLuke.
Yep.
Bam. I'm Gundacker. Let's go. Appreciate you guys. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money.
We'll be right back.